Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for spending time with me again today on Innerviews, where we meet the people behind the businesses. And today I'm chatting with Stafford Currin. Stafford, please could you tell us a little bit more about your business and why you started it?
Melanie, good day, and hello, listeners and people around the world, perhaps. Yes, as I said, my name is Stafford Currin, and I started Favril Ceramics around about 18, 20 years ago, more as a hobby, largely because of the stressful corporate world that I was involved in at the time in aviation. I needed a sort of an outlet whenever, we came home and things like that. And it just grew from there, basically. And then I attended two courses, one with David Moss down in PE, who gave me the sound grounding that I really needed. And when I was in Swaziland, I was working with Judy. So, of course, with those two, then I started more or less, going into it semi full time, as you would call it, so that's what. But now, of course, I'm in it full time.
Okay, so it started out kind of as a side hustle, and then over the years, you've gradually evolved it into a full-time thing.
That's correct, yes, and we still have major plans for Favril.
Okay.
There are obviously, we are basically just a one-man operation studio. What we do produce is obviously all handcrafted stuff, one-offs and that, small batch productions. And obviously on consignment, we also do, skills training in the rural areas and things like that as well.
Okay.
And so we are, we basically moving towards, as I said, I wouldn't say a full-time production place, but, at least the studio can offer more than what it is currently producing.
Okay. Okay. And what sort of products do you produce?
We manufacture this mostly for the nurseries and also slab work. We predominantly do slab work due to my being left-handed and of course the wheel being right-handed. And we do have, I do have a wheel now that does, assist me with the left hand. So we do wheel work, but most of my work is slab work, coil work, and that type of thing.
Okay.
What we're looking at is basically your planters and anything that's really nursery related.
Okay.
We do as well all of the flatware, and that is also one of the things that we do mostly, as the flatware being, your chip and dip type of bowls and things like that.
Okay.
And then again, we do assist obviously for like the pet brigade with their snakes and reptiles and those kind of things. But those are all sort of as and when craft production.
Okay, so you'll take on custom jobs. If somebody has something very specific that they want made in ceramics, then they can come to you and say, "This is what I need," and you'll make it for them.
Correct. Yes, we basically do it from what I like to call, pencil and paper drawing to finished product. We are currently busy with a production at the moment where we are making, as I said, I'm deeply involved in the production of the product. So, we'll even go far, we are actually currently looking at 3D printing and production, and that way to speed up all the modules and R&D, because obviously, we still do it very much old school, we make out a couple of products and then the person sees it. But we feel that, again, going 3D, not to do, how can I say, get away from the handcrafting side of things, but obviously we do need technology in today's life to make things a little bit faster and more compliant with the needs of the customer.
So am I hearing you correctly? You're essentially using the 3D printing process as a way of doing your sampling, and then the end product is still made in quite an analog way.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
We're looking at that more next year when we, as I said, when we relocate. because then there'll obviously be more space for us to have a complete artist studio to work out of, and obviously, dialogue with our customers vis-a-vis being, online or that type of thing. Yes, what happens is basically, you have the product, essentially the idea, you then download it into 3D printing, you get the printer out so that a person can see the tangible product at the end of the day, what works. From that, then we move to creating molds and things like that. And from there, we do the slip casting, and then from there we move on to final production.
Okay, makes sense. Now, you've mentioned that you do skills development training. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, apart from the skills development that I have done, in the past, I have been an assessor and a facilitator with most of manufacturing and things like that, writing and rewriting their manuals, online ebooks, and all this kind of thing. Because again, what we find is that both the government and everybody says we need more people, to be in the marketplace. We need to, get people jobs and that. My philosophy has always been, without skills, training, how can you actually effectively do the job? And this is where I've been involved in, especially in manufacturing and with small business enterprises. We go through the whole skills ambient and we take them through to the final product. Now with Favril, we're looking at the same thing where it's not a new concept, but obviously it's not out there. We need to create more established skills craft areas in our country. Overseas, it is a big thing. So that not everybody wants to be in IT, not everybody wants to be in university or a mechanic or whatever. We need to provide alternatives. And hence the reason why with the schools side, we then bring them in all basically unit standard based with SAQA and QCTO. And from there, we will then give them a sound business training. And then we follow on with, as I've just mentioned, with the designing development. And then from there, then they'll go and create their own, whatever it is, whether it's bead wire work or pottery, et cetera, et cetera. Then the objective is to create employment for these people so that there is an outlet that we can provide for that income. And this is where we want to develop that further. So that there's two phases to Favril. One is the skills side, which is my passion as well. And the other side is obviously creating, small one-off productions for clients.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, your skills training is actually focused on business acumen skills more than just, okay, we're going to make some ceramics and this is how you do it.
Correct. Okay. The fact is that a person will not be able to measure. For instance, in batch production, they might need 6.5 kilos of clay, for instance. They might need stamps and all this, and they might need to make stamps like I do. I make all of my own windows and doors and stamps like that for my products, for my planters. So it becomes a more realistic thing. We don't just make a little dot on that. We take them through the whole aspect of the theoretical side of things before we actually create the practical, so that they actually then can see that by having this acumen of knowing what to order, how to order, what is the kiln firing, and all the dangers that goes with it. Then the other side is obviously your health and safety. That is very much important with that. Then there's obviously fire drill as well. So there's quite an in-depth training for the people to acquire before we move into the practical side of things.
Okay, makes sense. So who are your who's your ideal customer?
Ideal customers at this stage are any or most of the nurseries that we have. We have obviously the gift stores. you know, and we're looking at also, you know, the interior decorator people. So those are the three that keeps me very much, you know, in the loop, as it were, and that type of thing. Then, of course, then I have my own stuff that I do, you know, freestyle sculpturing or whatever, for landscaping, etc. So those are the main people. Then the other side of it is when we have obviously the you know, the Saturday morning workshops, where the people come very stressed to the workshops, and then after 2 hours, nobody does. There's no training. There's no nothing. You're given a clay, and you know, you're told make a mug. How you make it is up to you. But the object is therapy. So that when you leave after 2 hours, then you at least, you know, you're looking forward to the next session, or you can go back on Monday and not hit the boss or something. So yeah, but so basically we're looking at, obviously we are expanding more, you know, into DIY type of things as well, because obviously we have an emerging, you know, African market who are buying houses and things like that. And yeah, we're looking at, you know, the wash basins, the tiles, and all those kind of concepts eventually. But right now, as I said, that's what we're looking at. Who our customers are.
I find it very interesting because you've got a very, very specific niche, you know, so that when you speak to business coaches and things like that, they always say that you need to find a very specific niche and then drill into that. And you seem to have done that very successfully.
Yes, there's not been an overnight thing. And I mean, everybody, you know, looks at you and say, you know, it's like most artists and say, wow, you know, he's earning millions or whatever for his paintings. But they forget that there's a long, as you would appreciate, there's a long road, you know, to achieving where or coming to where you are at the moment. And those kind of skills and expertise as challenges and opportunities obviously will then be plowed back into the skills developments and processes. So people are aware just where the problems may lie. So it's not an overnight thing, but yes, it took a while to discover what niche market. I mean, I was involved in miniature garden stuff for a while, which is still there. But again, you know, it has sort of dropped off a bit. But we're looking, you know, at other ventures as well, because you cannot, in this game, like anything else today, you have to have, you know, possibly one, maybe two that you can focus on to make the venture a success.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what's been your biggest challenges over the last 20 years with this business?
Are we losing each other?
Can you hear me now, Stafford?
Folks, I think may have lost Melanie.
So, Stafford, what have been your biggest challenges over the last 20 years?
The challenges have been very mixed. One of them has been the recognition of skills for not only myself, but mainly for like school leavers and things like that. They don't seem to conceptualize, especially people like, and I don't mind saying it, with the people like Sakwa and that they perceive it as just a cultural thing, you know, that the ladies made the pots and things like that. So how can it become a revenue earning stream for a family? And when I was in the Transkei, this was very much a problem that we had. And I've done various speaks and that to people like Cheetah and saying that, you know, it needs to be formally recognized through the Department of Labor, another mainstream of revenue earning. Yes, we need skills in this country. We were sitting with thousands of people, you know, we're looking at Boilermakers and all those kind of things, which is essential. That's not a problem. But again, what we do need is an alternative mainstream skills set in which to develop people. In case in point with your batik as well, it's not just making the batiks, but can you imagine how they can then interrelate with the fashion design and people like that? And this is what we are very much doing with our skills, is that by bringing woodworkers, potters, jewelers together, we can make a pot that has all of those elements in there. And by doing that, you are creating a skill, but you're also creating, what is more importantly, a revenue stream for the people. Now, that's been my major challenge, has been the recognition of these, of why we actually doing it there. And I believe that we are getting there slowly. People say, down in Cape Town are doing it very successfully. There are many people also doing it successfully, but it's not enough to consider, when we consider 300 or 39,000 or whatever grade 12s coming out at the end of the year, and then they're sitting around without anything to do. Now, it's not a question of that they may do this for the rest of their lives, but as long as they have a tangible product in which to make something, join forces with each other, and so by doing, they can then create a living, not only for themselves, but for their family. This idleness is the biggest bane of our problems in this country. And I talk about everyone. So it's a case of, if you're good at wire work, well, make a bowl or something like that. The other side that we are making, which is very easy, is the resin ball. It's very easy. It's practical. There's very little equipment required. And now with my particular skills training, there again we rely mostly on the hand skills side of something, because the machines and that are very expensive. So how do they raise money from the banks to buy, say, a 80,000 Rand kiln? But if you have a community kiln that can be built, by then buying a 20 kilogram of clay, splitting amongst them, because say that would be 300 Rand and they split amongst 10 of them, they each got enough clay to make, either a planter or something which they can then go and buy, and then from there on build on that. Those are the kind of things that we need in this country, is to change the perception of how we're going to, in the future, create jobs. Now, it's not only just for us, but there are other things that we need to look at as well, scrap repurposing and things like that. But from my perception, the challenges have been to try and get the people and the powers that be in Parliament to actually change that perception, because they're only looking at big dollar signs. That's fine, because it means taxes, it means imports, costs and all exports. But again, it does not solve the family crisis problem. We can put 100 or 200 Rand a month extra onto the table, then I would have achieved what I've set out to do. And this is what I'm looking at, as well as creating this very important skills concept for to become involved in.
It makes perfect sense. It absolutely makes perfect sense. And actually it talks to, we've kind of got a culture in this country where artists tend to work in silos and be very fearful of competition and that kind of thing. Right. Do you think maybe that also plays a role?
Very much so. I mean, I have an ex-sister-in-law who is a well-known artist. And there's always this fact about, the perception has always been, there goes this lonely old artist into the field or walking along the beach and painting and things like that. But again, there's no real coming together and exchanging art ideas. There isn't a center such as we have in Paris and Belgium and places like that, where people can actually go and interrelate with each other. Look at the new concepts, look at the new techniques. I mentioned about the 3D artists. I mean, this is a very big thing in America at the moment. And it's not necessarily going to take over our hand skills, but it's certainly going to assist. And that's what we need to look at. And there are, especially with artists, I mean, they're very strange people when you approach them and that, because they want to be on their own. They want to, create this Monet or whatever. And it really doesn't help if you're in isolation. I believe that there should be a coming together of artists of all kinds, because we interrelate with the artist in terms of our glazing techniques. Now, perhaps there's a switch over there where our glazing techniques can help them, or vice versa, and things like that. Yes, very much. We need more interrelation and dialogue. And yes, virtual learning and all that is helpful. But again, I say my philosophy is, how do you actually train people in virtual learning when you're in a rural area where there's no Wi-Fi facilities? So one then has to physically go there and then develop these things. I know of a person when I was up in Uganda. He was an artist. He had a caravan, and that's what he used to do amongst all of the children. He used to travel basically the whole of Uganda and teach the youngsters art. That's the kind of perceptions we need.
Do you feel that there will always be a place for normal workshops, that, because it sounds to me, I mean, a lot of people are saying, well, everything's going to go virtual from now on. Do you feel that there still is going to be a place for actual in-person workshops?
I believe that there is. Look, one can say, especially in my field, where you can say, right, we're going to give you, a kilo of clay, and then we're going to post it off to you, and then we're going to talk how to make this pot, such as we're talking now. Now, then I'm going to physically demonstrate here, and you're going to do it that side. But I feel that there are still many, many people that need that one-on-one skills training. Many people still. I don't believe that it would fade out entirely, but I believe it could become a useful tool for the future in training people in whatever field. Because again, with many of the things such as clay, you train the people to show them what is bisque, what is leather hard, how does it actually tangibly feel. You've got to feel it and say, that is now leather hard, that is still greenware, and all those kind of things. So again, that's something you can't really teach someone unless you're actually there with it. Physically.
That makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense.
And that is why we have, got this development which we want to produce, where we can take people and then they'll have their own little workshop to go and try themselves out, do whatever they have to do. There's no, the basic grounding is what you will get, but thereafter it's up to you to experiment. But again, it gives you the cooperation and also the coordination of having workshops, Saturday workshops, and I've got this problem, how does it work? Those kind of things can be handled virtually, because then you can see it. It's a physical thing. Look, I've got this crack. How do I restore it? But again, when you actually physically need to show the people how to weld that with slip and all this kind of thing, then we still have a problem. You look at beadwork and wire work. That is in itself is a very delicate art. And that too has to be looked at from a practical point of view.
Yes, I actually feel that probably what's going to happen is it's going to become so the cyber will become an augmentation to the actual workshops, but I don't think we're going to do away with workshops completely. So, Stafford, what do you enjoy the most about what you do?
Yes, I still say that for craft, whatever a craft it is, because I mean it's whether you're a cooper or whether you're doing resin or jewelry making, batik making, whatever, there still needs to have that interrelation, because you as a person, you need to have that workshop foundation where people can talk to each other and say, I don't understand this. The teacher's not talking to me. Someone else is going to say, no, but you do it this way. You tie your band around and you do something like that. I still believe that is the fun part of what we do in the craft. Take away that fun part, that real social interrelationship, and then unfortunately it'll just be a normal commercial thing. Then again, it's all manufacture productions and craft is all about not only just about making money, it's about having fun as well. That I believe is also a big problem that we may have.
So, Stafford, if anybody is looking for you online, where can they find you? Can you hear me?
We lost again.
Hello, Stafford, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
The video was, I think it was a bit. So anyway, I basically picked up, if anybody wants to contact me, where can they find me?
Yes.
Is that correct? We do have a Facebook page. You can download, as I said, you can go into Favril Ceramics, into the Facebook there. And as I said, I have all my particulars there. Okay. And then, as I said, we can then take it from there should anybody wish to want something, special or whatever. Because that's also what we do, is we try and create, especially for weddings and for mitzvahs and things like that. We try and create something that's different and not with what people are seeing in the shops. And we try to make it a bit of a different aspect of things.
Okay, that sounds awesome. So for people who are watching, I will add that link in the description of this video when I upload it. So you'll be able to find it in the video description below. So thank you so much for that fascinating window into your world, Stafford. I enjoyed speaking with you today very much.
Well, thank you again for your time, Melanie, and to those out there that are looking at watching, should they have any, suggestions, criticisms, or whatever, yes, we welcome them, and that's what it's all about. But thank you again to everybody for this time and letting a bit more about Favril Ceramics.
Okay, awesome. Have a beautiful day.